Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, I guess put it in the books, as the Met radio announcers would say. Yankees take, I guess, the first round of the Subway Series. Again, it really doesn't mean anything. Winning 2 out of the 3 games, and really in doing so, I think overall, if you want to collectively put all the games together, it looked like the far superior team. Again, the Yankees really had an opportunity. Should have also won the Saturday game as well. A bit of a squeaker there. But nevertheless, I think the Yankees held their own at home at Yankee Stadium. And, of course, Soto shouted with the boos. Actually, a little harsher reaction, with the whole turning the backs on him in that first game than I thought it would be. But nevertheless, we'll look at the whole series there. So make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. If you're not a subscriber already, I don't know why. And also go over to the YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe there as well. So again, getting back to the Subway Series, again, this was going to be Soto's big return, first time coming to the Bronx since leaving the Yankees for the Mets in the offseason. Yeah, I was expecting like some boos and stuff like that, but it was probably a little bit rougher than I thought it would be. Obviously the whole thing when he came out, and both, the Yes and WPIX, the broadcast for that, smartly didn't cut to a commercial just to see how the, Yankee Stadium, the bleacher creatures were going to treat Soto. And of course the whole thing is they all kind of just turned their backs on him and, just kind of stick it to him that way. And of course, heard a couple of F Soto chants, even throughout the whole weekend there. So a little rougher on him. And for Soto, this was not a good return. You figured like someone like him would want to kind of really stick it to the Yankees and the Yankee Stadium crowd there. Well, this was not the weekend for doing it. In fact, I think he only had like one hit the entire weekend, and his average dropped to like 246. Not really much of an impact in this game, and you can just see the Mets offense struggling there, just scoring 2 runs, 3 runs, and 2 runs the entire weekend there. The Saturday game was probably, I guess, the best one in terms of this, so tight and so contested. Mets able to squeak out a run there in the top of the 9th inning, and unfortunately, Yankees, let that one go. They really should have had that game. I would say the only good thing about the Saturday game is it looks like DJ LeMahieu really had himself a really good game, hitting a home run, a great defensive play at second base there, and had an opportunity in the bottom of the 8th with bases loaded there, and really smoked the ball. Unfortunately, went right to Soto. It was just a laser, but if you get, again, just a couple of feet maybe to the right of Soto there, that would have dropped in for a bases clearing double probably, because it was 2 outs, bases loaded, and the Yankees probably would have won that game as well. So the Yankees almost like gave the Mets a game there, if you want to say that in a little bit. So again, a lot of good stuff in the weekend. Again, if this is the version of DJ LeMahieu who looked pretty sharp, again, this is only a couple of games there. Obviously, we'll take that. And, of course, you could probably say this was the signature Yankee game for Cody Bellinger. We always say when someone always comes to the Yankees in their uniform for the first time, it's like, when is your Yankee moment? You do something big for the first time. It's hard to really judge when that is for a lot of players. I would probably say this might have been it for Cody Bellinger, having himself a great game in the Sunday night match there, knocking the first 2 runs there in the bottom of the first, but, of course, putting the game away. In the 8th, and the Yankees having a big rally there and capping it off with a grand slam. Ironically, the ball going right over the person he replaced, Juan Soto, right over his head there. So just like this poetic justice, you couldn't have scripted that any better there. So, and another thing too, if his bat's starting to wake up, that's really good news for the Yankees, because he's I've covered this a little bit before here and on the YouTube version of the show. I don't want to say disappointment. Obviously, the power, he's got some home runs there, stuff like that, but not really hitting the way we thought he would hit. Kind of was hovering around 200, a little bit under it. He really seems to pick it up, and, obviously he did miss some time. Had that whole food poisoning thing in Detroit, and had to sit out a couple times, like during the Pittsburgh series, the back issue. So maybe that was derailing him a little bit. But if he's starting to come on a little bit, and he could just, add on what you're getting from Trent Grisham, what you're getting from Austin Wells, what you're getting from Ben Rice, what you're getting from Judge there, then you're really seeing this, a lineup really starting to take off. Paul Goldschmidt, again, had himself also a really good series. Knocked in some runs at the Friday night game as well as the Sunday night capper as well. So you just really see this offense, again, what it could just do when all these guys are in there. And, of course, we've seen some footage of Giancarlo Stanton run around the bases this weekend. It's working out a little bit. No timetable on him, but then if you add that at bat there, then, again, you just really just looking at the upside with this offense, if it could really click what they could potentially do. And when you go on the other side of the ball, Yankee pitching, so steady all weekend. Did you really get the best of Max Fried? But still, even when he's not at his best, gives you 6 quality innings. I think Clark Schmidt, he pitched his heart out. Again, he probably deserved it, and only gave up 2 runs there against the Met offense. Struck out Soto a couple times. He looked good, and Rodon looked good as well. So things really clicking. I would say the first game, I don't know if it just seemed like the Yankees might have been avoiding Juan Soto a little bit. I know Rodon walked him, I guess, that first at bat there, and it seems like they were going to let Soto beat them. So maybe they was going to say, hey, look, we'll issue a couple of walks. That's all really Soto did this weekend. He just had pretty much a couple of walks, and I think he had the 1 hit in the Sunday game, but pretty quiet there. But I also thought the Yankees were maybe at least in the first game, looked like they were avoiding him a little bit. Again, a couple of, especially that first at bat, Rondon wasn't even close to the plate. So I don't know, maybe it was just overhyped. It was gripping the ball too tight. I don't know, like that. But yeah, but overall, the Met offense, obviously, you can see some of the woes they have in there. Scoring runs. Another thing worth noting, of course, is you all about Vivas in the the Sunday night game there. Very big at bat there. Now there's a little with Dominguez on third base there. Hits a little dribble to first base, but it was a really good at bat against Stanek. It was like 11 pitch at bat, and this guy's like pumping like triple digits, 100 miles per hour with fastballs, and this guy's fouling him off. Hits a little dribble to first base there, and Alonso misplayed the ball, overthrows the catcher. Dominguez able to score easily, take a 3-2 lead, and then from there the floodgates open. But getting back to Vivas, and this was kind of mentioned with Jazz being injured and kind of the silver linings that. See, I don't think you put Jazz in that situation. I don't think he's making contact. He's probably just going to strike out. As much as, the good things Jazz does, his at-bats aren't really great. He doesn't grind out at-bats. He's too much of a free swinger. Again, I think his batting average right now is like 163 or 180 or something like that. Someone like Yoba Vivas maybe doesn't have the flair and the pizzazz of Jazz, but something like that, see, that's what I was kind of mentioning, that even if by having him in there, he could grind out bats, he could probably hit for a higher batting average, he could make more contact. That's what you kind of need in that situation, just to make contact with the ball and get a dribble. See, in that spot, Jazz is probably not going to make contact. He's just probably going to whiff on three or four pitches, and that's it there. So, again, I think Jazz coming back is probably the better thing for the team overall, and we did see him work out a little bit during the day there. There was some footage of him, take some grounders at second base. And interestingly enough, which I was surprised the Yankees was doing this, even with DJ's return, they actually been giving Vivas a lot of playing time at third base, as well as Peraza, and putting DJ at second base. I thought just because it's less taxing on your body, you would put DJ at third, but I guess Boone going that route, and then we'll see what happens when Jazz comes back in. Does Jazz now do what he did last season? Does he go to third base and you keep DJ at second? We'll see how that all works out, but just getting back to, again, making contact like that, again, that's why, even though Jazz was gone for a little bit, I thought there was a silver lining, have someone else in there who could just make contact a little bit better. Probably not going to hit as much home runs, probably not going to be able to steal as many bases as Jazz could do that, but in those spots like that, you got to make contact, and that's what Vivas did there, and then really that opened the floodgates and really put the series away for the Yankees. And again, if you just want to look at all three games collectively, just the offense, everything all included, again, I think clearly the Yankees look like a little, I won't say totally a better team. I mean, again, Mets still a pretty good team now as well, but the Yankees felt like they were in the driver's seat almost, all three games. And again, I kind of felt like they let that Saturday game go. Again, DJ LeMahieu smoked the ball in the right field. It was just a bullet line drive right at Soto. Other than that, could have got that into the gap there. That would have put that game away, and the Yankees would have swept the whole series. So good things for the Yankees. Obviously, again, went perfect. Soto came here. You booed him. He didn't really do anything for you. He didn't even look like he was any significant player there. Cody Bellinger actually looked like the better player than Soto. DJ LeMahieu looked like a better player than Soto this weekend. And, obviously, you just see the offensive woes with Soto and the Met offense overall up in the lineup there. And obviously now they can worry about that for the next 15 years. And the Yankees move forward now. They'll host the Texas Rangers, so they come in here for 3. And then we'll see how this all plays out. Again, just looking to get some pieces back, such as Giancarlo Stanton. You want to get Luis Gil back. Looks like Scott Efros also throwing down in the minors. Get him back in the bullpen as well there. And also, can't forget Devin Williams there on the Friday game. Probably looked as good as he's looked so far this season. Struck out the side there in the Friday game. Again, score was kind of like, obviously it was a 6-2 game there, so not a pressure-packed situation. But, stuff-wise, again, he's looking a little bit better and better. So maybe it was just something, I don't know, weather-related or something. I don't know. But, again, had probably his best, most impressive inning there Friday night there. So, again, if we could get that version of Devin Williams much more often there, then maybe you consider him maybe going back in the closer role. But at this point, it seems like it might possibly, if Luke Weaver just kind of stays doing what he's doing, they just might stick with Weaver the whole way, which really doesn't make a difference. It's more probably for Devin Williams. I'm sure he wants to rack up some saves so when he goes to free agency, maybe get some more money there. But nevertheless, again, whoever's pitching the 8th, 9th, doesn't matter. If they're both clicking there, that's all good news for the Yankees. So we'll catch you next time.